So for today's discussion topic, we are going to talk about sponsorship, Rob. What an interesting topic.
Yeah, I think it's a hot topic and people love to talk about sponsorship. There's a lot of questions, how do I get sponsored, all that sort of thing. And hopefully we'll answer a few of those questions. But really, I want to just go down a bit of a different tangent because we've been involved in that sort of game for quite a while. We want to talk about the sponsorship route that each of us took. Okay. So how it all started and sort of our progression, our personal progression through it all. And hopefully, for any aspiring anglers out there, that might help answer a few questions as well about how you get into this game, or maybe it might put you off because obviously there's a few instances along the way. So talk to me first about how did it all start? You know, was it a case of started fishing locally, got a few good results, then maybe come along?
Mine was quite an interesting route, Rob, in that I always fished with a team. And when I first started fishing, I fished with Tom Bolton's, at the time they were called Normuck Blue Fox team, when I was 15, 16, 17. And great bunch of guys, never really got in the team to be honest. The guys were fantastic. They were the best team in the league. They used to fight it out with another couple of teams, Colmick Triangle, they were a great team. And effectively, when you were in the team environment, you had access to their sponsorship deal. Now, Tom Bolton sort of sponsored it, so there was a bit off bait from the tackle shop, there was a bit off the Normuck tackle, that sort of thing. And when I left, I joined Browning Hot Rods. Now, Browning and Hot Rods is one of the most, I'm going to say, established team sponsorships in the country. And it was fantastic. Again, the same thing. They got a deal on the Browning stuff. And when you appreciate what sponsorship is, Rob, for a team, they don't just go, hey, everybody in the team, have all this free Browning tackle. What they do is they go, they effectively have an account where anyone within the team can buy the tackle at a reduced price, almost as a tackle shop, if you like. And in return, the team promotes
You might get a bit of luggage and a bit of clothing, the promotional items for free, but then it is literally maybe a trade, less 20% or something like that.
At the time, I think we did get some clothing and some luggage, so that was it. So what happened was I left Browning Hot Rods because I'd moved up north and I joined Ossett. And when I went up north, a really good friend of mine, Rob Lincoln, basically turned to the Browning guys and went, don't let him go. Don't let him go. Don't lose him from being Browning sponsored because he does a great job within the team. At that time, I was a strong member of the Hot Rods team and, you know, obviously more and more active, starting to put myself out there in magazines and things like that. And I got a Browning sponsorship.
Was that a full deal, or was that?
Yeah, it was what I call a full, what I would class as a full deal. So effectively, Frederik Peterson, a fantastic guy at Browning, called me up. I just joined Barnsley at the time. Literally, I've been fishing with Barnsley a few months. Called me up and said, listen, we'd love a meeting. I flew out to Germany and they offered me the tackle and the equipment for free. Okay. So effectively, I could have the tackle and equipment that I needed to use for free in return for a promotion. So the promotion at that time, there wasn't videos. There was magazines, Angling Times, those sorts of things. And the results that you obtained in fishing gained you notoriety with the magazines.
Yeah, it was less about being in social media. We know how things have moved on over the years, but it was very much results-based plus magazine work.
Yes, of course, and those two go hand in hand. So Angling Times might phone me up to say, hey Lee, we've seen that you've won this competition, can we talk to you about it? Yeah. You talk to them about it, they think, oh, that's good, do you mind doing an article with us? And things like that developed. And because that was happening, and I was doing that more and more and more with Browning, an opportunity arose where I got a phone call from Preston Innovations.
So just talk about the Browning thing. Was that...
If you love your fishing and you love your fishing videos and you want to get better at fishing, there are two places where you can watch all the detailed fishing videos we produce. First of all, the website, www.anglingedge.co.uk. Masses of detail in these videos. You get, when you sign up, all of the new videos and all of the old videos. There's a method, a tactic, a venue for everybody there. Plus, you now get all of that content on YouTube. You can join, click that button just there, join our membership. There you get all the same content, all those new videos, all those old videos, you'll learn loads, because along the journey, we've learned loads too.
We expect X number of features, X number of, was that just crack on, we believe in you, go and do your job.
At that time, it was effectively like that. But you know, when you sit down and you meet someone like that, and you know, it was a small base of sponsored anglers. Effectively, it was myself and Bob Nudd. There was a few other guys who got trade deals, like a slightly lower deal. And again, I was working full time, like you do, and the expectation was you achieve your high standards of fishing that we expect from you. You portray yourself on the bank in the right manner, and we expect to see you in magazines and features. Now, if 2 years would have gone by, Rob, and I would have been hopeless at fishing, rude to people on the bank, and not appeared in a magazine, Browning would have put the hand on my shoulder and said, "I'm afraid, Lee, it's not working out," you know, and parted company. Now, at the time, I was doing a lot of what we've just said. So their expectation may have been 2 or 3 magazine articles a year. I actually had just signed a deal with Match Fishing to do one every month. So all of a sudden I was there in people's faces, really. And when I signed that deal from Match Fishing, I actually have John Arthur to thank, because John Arthur, again at Match Fishing Magazine, contacted Preston Innovations and said, "Listen, we've just signed Lee Kerry to do a weekly piece. I think he would be worth an approach." Now, it was a really tough decision to leave Browning, because they'd really looked after me. And this is no disrespect to Browning whatsoever, but the Preston Innovation deal was the next level.
Okay.
So again, I got the equipment and what I had for free, and I was basically continue as you are at Browning, but I was stepping into a world that had more possibilities. So when you're with a company such as Browning, who are very big in Europe but not so much in the UK, it was very much a case of, well, we haven't really got the money to pay you lots of money to go fishing or anything like that. Okay. It was never going to be a consultancy, which is different to sponsorship.
I always felt as well, Preston were early 2000s, you know, still are, but early 2000s they were really on a trajectory, whereas Browning had probably plateaued as a company. They'd sort of made it. They were there. They were where they needed to be. Whereas Preston were like, we are growing.
Absolutely. It was 2008 when I joined there, so I've been there for 15 years now. And that effectively, as Preston continued to grow from the strong part of, I mean, 2008 was already strong, but continued to grow from that point on, it was perfect for me because my fishing was at the start of its journey. So I was already fishing with Barnsley Blacks, but you know, you're talking about, I wasn't an international angler or anything like that. I was somebody who was hoping to achieve big things in fishing. And of course, then as fishing's developed, Rob, the modern day sponsored angler is a different beast, a different beast altogether. Just give us a little bit of background on yourself as well, because then, you know, is that a different story to me or very similar?
No, I'll tell you what, it's different because I was very much individual based. I didn't fish for a team. I was never thrown into a team environment when I was younger. So it was all about me going out on a limb and doing it for myself and going to sort of spreading my wings and going to fish a bigger matches. Because the people I was mixing with, don't get me wrong, some fantastic anglers, but they weren't fishing big events. They weren't doing that sort of thing. There was maybe a couple of us that sort of branched off and started doing that, but really in the end it just ended up being off my own back. I'd go and start fishing at big events. So at the time, my dad had a little tackle shop, only a small one, but obviously reps would go in all the time, and all of a sudden there's this lad who's catching loads of fish, and his dad owns a tackle shop, and he's getting results. Yeah. And a friend of mine had wrote to one of the magazines. It was Midland Angler, so no longer a magazine anymore, but Midland Angler, not a big publication. And he wrote to this magazine saying, "There's a lad on our circuit. He's winning all the time. You need to be featuring this guy." He just sent an email off, probably 2000, 2001, something like that. And anyway, I get a phone call from Gareth Pennell, it was at the time. "Oh, I've been asked by someone in your area to go out and do a feature. Do you want to go and do a feature?" Ian Chapman, photographer, turned up, shot the feature with me. My first ever magazine feature. I was fishing a method feeder at Holly Farm, local venue. And he said to me, "You know, do you want to do more of this sort of thing?" I said, "Yeah, I'd love to." And he says, "If you write, I'll come and shoot some features for you." So the promotional side was always there along with the results. And obviously then Dad's got a shop, so obviously the reps like that, because obviously
of course,
giving a
it's
bit back to the
influence.
shop,
Yeah, of course.
influence. You're getting the results, you're willing to do a bit for the magazines as well. It's the same sort of boxes that we're sort of ticking with you.
Massively.
A chap from Triana gave me a call, and I had the Triana kit at my house, like ready to go, and I was sort of umming and ahhing. He'd sent the kit, like 2 poles and all the luggage and everything, before I'd even thought about anything really, before I'd even said yes. And then a rep from Midi went in to my dad's shop and said, "Your lad, what's the crack?" And he said, "Well, this is the story." And anyway, I felt, with Midi being a local company, talked to the guys there, thought, there's some room here for growth, and I can actually have an influence here. Whereas Triana, maybe like yourself, a company abroad, distributed in the UK, I just don't know whether I'd have had the same influence. And I wanted a bit of influence over what went on and a few day-to-day things and product development, things like that. So in the end, I went with Midi. And still to this day, I have a great relationship with the guys at Midi. So I was with them for a long time. Dynamite Baits came in then and said, "You're doing work for Midi," because it evolved with Midi. I was, you wouldn't believe it, I was welding at the time and doing as many magazine features as I could, because I didn't want to be welding all my life, put it that way. I wanted to progress in fishing. And it got to a point where Midi said to me, "Listen, if you want to get a little bit of money out of this, we're not going to pay you just to go fishing, but if you get more magazine articles in magazines, we will pay you, because we're paying for adverts, and a magazine article is an advert. So if you can get a 3-page article in Match Fishing magazine, we will pay you X amount. If you get a 2-page in Angling Times, we will pay you X amount." So all of a sudden, I'm organising these features for myself, but also other anglers. I was taking on other anglers as well under the Midi banner. And whilst I was at Dynamite said to me, "Do the same. We're not getting any presence in the magazines." Alex Bones was doing their marketing, and he'd left to go and start Guru at the time. So for a year, they had no presence in the magazines. And Dynamite were really heavily, they were a company that relied on marketing at the time. So they said, "We need presence in the magazines." So I would do the same thing. Get as many anglers in the magazine under the Dynamite banner as possible. Same for Midi. The promotion at the time was fantastic. And I'd be in my factory welding away on the phone. It'd be so noisy, and then a magazine would ring and I'd be welding or grinding, and I'd be on the phone to the magazine trying to sort out a feature for the next day, and it was busy, you know. And in the end, I had to say to firm that I was working for when I was doing all my welding and stuff, "Look, I can't do this anymore, it's not fair, I've just got to go off, and I think there's enough money in me just going and organising all of this sort of media-based stuff." Then,
which is now commonplace, by the way.
Which is commonplace. Then, obviously the dream is to go fishing and not really have to organise all of the media stuff and all of that, all of those other anglers. The dream is to go fishing and concentrate on your own fishing. Then, as you've found, companies get involved because bigger companies come in, and there's things that happen above our level that move things around in a company, and things become not more corporate, but things happen within companies that change what you do. And Shimano came in at Dynamite, and they merged. And obviously Shimano do tackle, Midi do tackle. Like I said, I still have a fantastic relationship with the guys at Midi, but at the time, Shimano came in and they said, "Listen, we want young, keen guys who know the media, get results," because I was, don't get me wrong, getting results.
Fantastic results.
You know, amazing results.
Yeah, we know the results. Amazing.
At the time, it was
amazing.
There wasn't the same level of competitions around. There wasn't the same number, was there?
No. We all chased the same thing.
So there was UK Champs, there was Eve Shum, there was Dread Knockout. That was it, really. You know, a Fishermania
festivals.
That sort of thing. So, and I was doing well in those. And Shimano came and they said, "Forget all that media stuff. Forget dealing with all those other anglers. We're going to pay you decent money to just go fishing. Look after yourself, just go fishing." And that's where it changed for me from being someone who was sponsored but also sort of worked for a company to an angling consultant. And that went on for maybe 6-7 years, something like that. And then obviously corporate things getting
things changed and Shimano splitting up, etc, etc. Well, I think listening to what Rob's really interesting story there, and mine as well, there's one thing that is commonplace for me, Rob. It's not just about the fishing.
Yeah, it's a shame,
right?
but it's not.
We don't live in a world where I watched the program the other day about Michael Jordan and Nike and how they were all fighting over him. Oh, please wear our shoes to play basketball.
Yeah.
We don't live in that world. Do not think for 1 minute fishing is in that industry.
But hang on. Michael Jordan still had to do the promotion.
Yeah, he did, absolutely.
He has to do everything outside of his basketball.
no,
he had to do all that.
He still had to work for Nike in order to develop that industry. Now, if you are expecting something from anybody, and this goes to every single angler out there, if you're a young angler wanting to explore the possibilities of becoming sponsored, if you're an angler who's been fishing for 20 years and wants to look at getting sponsorship, you have to think about what you get in return for what you're doing. So at all stages, Rob, it was the magazine articles, then we started filming.
I'm just going to go back to the magazine articles. When me and you, because I think we started doing things at the similar time, writing for the magazines, I can count on one hand the anglers that were writing for the magazine.
Yes, that's right.
Actually writing their own words.
Physically writing. So,
and they'd come to me and they'd say, it's so easy that we've got this guy, it'd be the same for you, that is obviously is relevant because you're winning stuff.
Performing at a level they need. Yeah.
You're performing at a level that we need. And we hardly have to touch your words because it's not drivel. It's actually, we hardly have to edit it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were providing something for the media. The media were getting something back. The angling companies then go, well, that's great because we are getting something from you being in the media, and there was a triangle there that all worked very well. Now, because that world has changed and everything evolved. So now you've got a situation whereby you're following on social media, and I love this word, right? I had this conversation with our good friend Joe Kerry a couple of years ago. Instagram call it influencers, right? And he said, you know, you're an influencer, don't you? And I said, don't be ridiculous. Right? And he said, no, you are. You are. Effectively, if you're on social media and you've got 50 mates that listen to what you're saying, you are influencing your 50 mates, because effectively that's what social media is. Well, if you've got 20,000 followers who are following what you're doing, you are influencing them. Now, it's up to the people that are being, and it's just like I listen to Rob and he influences me in a conversation and vice versa. You are doing that. So now the form of influence has changed, because whereas I might turn up at a match with 20 people on it, and if I win the match, those 10 of the 20 people want to listen to what I've done, now I can come home and go, oh, I've had this match today, I've done it like this, I've done it like that, and the people might be 5,000 people listening. So the influence has changed, and what a company would be looking for from a younger angler or an angler who is looking for something, they are looking for the fact that you could effectively promote their brand through your influence. So obviously being kind and respected and gaining the results is one thing. You then have to be able to transmit that to the public. So if you never tell anybody what you're doing, even if you're Alan Scott on and you're an amazing, and I'm using Alan as a 5 times world champion, Alan still, when he won the world championships, has done features, he now does videos, he now influences us all in his fishing. But if he would have shut himself in a cave and then just gone fishing and shut himself back in a cave...
Which is my Michael Jordan theory.
Yeah.
He was obviously at the time the guy, and we're using him as an... But because he shouted about it, or the companies around him, which is a big thing as well, the companies around him shouted about him. He didn't necessarily blow his own trumpet, someone else did. It made him into this bigger
That's
thing,
right.
and it just carried on, didn't it?
It spirals. So if you're looking for something like that, you have to almost look at what you're asking for from somebody and look at what you're giving them in return. So, for example, if you wanted to have free fishing tackle, which may be worth, let's say somebody said to you, oh, you can have £1,500 worth of tackle a year. And I'm using a figure because I think it's relevant, Rob. You might have to work 10 days in another job to earn £1,500, to which you could buy the fishing tackle. Or you might have to do 10 days work for the fishing tackle company in order to earn your £1,500 worth of tackle. So,
which by the way, you're sort of not forced to use, but that's your tackle.
yeah, no, you're not forced to
Because
use.
if you went to go
you have a
work 10
choice.
days, I don't know, plastering or
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
you wanted to do,
Yeah,
you don't have to buy X brand of tackle. You can go and buy a Dyer rod, a Preston reel, a Guru, whatever. You could go
That's
and mix
right.
and match. Whereas if you go and work 10 days for Browning, let's use Browning as an example, when it comes to using your £15,000 worth of kit allowance, you have to use Browning kit.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is great, and that's why, you know, if somebody wants to be sponsored, you have to think about what you're trying to achieve from it. Are you looking for notoriety? Are you looking to advance yourself in the angling world? And I'm always a little bit, I never like the negativity that some people provide. So you might find an angler, I'm going to say this angler, Jim's here, and Jim catches a few fish, Rob, but he's not Rob Wootton. He's just a good angler, and he gets a lovely little sponsorship deal with Grass.com, right? And Grass.com say, you're great, Jim, because everybody likes you, and you do some lovely pictures when you go
when I was
fishing.
a student, Lee,
Yeah,
I'd have loved to deal with Grass.com.
everybody would have. Everybody wants to deal with Grass.com. But my point is, we don't have to hate on Jim, because as far as I'm concerned, Jim, even though you may think you are better at fishing than Jim is giving something back to Grass.com.
He's putting himself out there.
Well, he gives something back to him. So you have to think about, if you want to be involved in the fishing industry, it's almost like a reward versus effort type thing. And, you know, I'm in a fortunate position. I'm still with Preston Innovations. That position has become much more advanced than it was 15 years ago. But at the same time, Rob, you go into product meetings, you're on the phone to the guys regularly. I am out filming on an insanely regular basis.
Yeah, you're earning it.
You are then also trying to perform your angling at the very elite level to tie that all together.
And I'm going to touch on this because I now work with a couple of different companies, 2 or 3 different companies with promotion. Whereas everything's focused on you, I have to sort of promote those companies off my own back. Now, the downside of that is no one's blowing my trumpet for me.
Nope.
So we're talking about that spiralling and
I just
going.
said you could be Rob Wootton. I mean, I tried to do it for you, mate.
Yeah, I know you did, yeah. But no one's blowing that trumpet for me. So there is a benefit to being with a single company because they're putting you out there all the time, especially someone like Preston Innovations that's a marketing giant.
Fantastic, yeah.
I do feel that if there was someone like that behind me, it would push and push and push, and it would spark, probably help what we're doing here as well. So I do feel that there is benefits each way.
Benefit each way, which is what you're saying about Michael Jordan and Nike.
Yeah.
For having Nike sing the praises of Michael Jordan.
Help Nike as well.
Helps Nike and helps Michael
everyone.
Jordan. So
now I'm going to just caveat for what we've just saying about the angler being an influencer. We used to call it opinion formers when it was magazines, but an influencer.
Opinion formers.
That's what you're an opinion former. Being an influencer is great, and looking at numbers on social media is great. But I see a lot of guys, and I'm big into marketing and social media and stuff like that. And I see a lot of guys with fantastic numbers. I look at their social media and think, that is fantastic. I don't think they're influencing the same amount of people as better anglers or other anglers with lesser numbers. So it's not just about the numbers. Numbers are great, but you've got to have some results to back it up, because there's a lot of people on social media that have got, like I say, fantastic numbers. Whether they're classed as influencers, in the term that I'd like to think of an influencer, I'm not too sure. Whereas, you could have a quarter of the numbers that you have and still influence more people with 500,000 followers, I think, because people look at you and go, he's brilliant, he knows what he's on about, that's what I'm going to go and use.
I think it's a balance. I think it's getting the balance of having the respect of the people that you're looking for, and there's loads of anglers out there doing that and doing it in a great way. And also, like you say, for me, it can't be as black and white as 500,000 versus 200,000 or whatever it might be, especially because you don't even know where those 500,000 are.
No.
With social media. But I think that's a different conversation. But I think the journey for the anglers out there, for the people who are out there, I think carefully about what you want from your sponsorship. Think carefully about what you'd like to do, and if your results and respect, and let's finish on influence, are there, I'm sure that the journey you want to go on will expand.